Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. What seems to be flying a bit low on the radar, that undisputed super featherweight champion Alicia Baumgardner was in action this weekend, along with several other female boxers. Clarissa Shields reacted to the weigh-in by saying, same weight class, but her body looks different. I wonder what changed.
Sarcasm.
It's hardly a secret that there would be a level of scrutiny on Alicia Baumgardner and how she looked in her last fight, given that it was her first fight since the doping case.
Right?
How is she gonna look? Is she gonna look just as strong, just as fast, athletic, sharp, now that she's under the hot lights? And it appears that she did. She was able to stay in character, scrutiny and all. Perhaps that's why you don't hear more about it, where some were expecting her to put on a flat performance.
Hoping.
Wishing that she might put on a flat performance as a result of the magnifying glass that she's under, that now that she can't use banned substances, she's not the same fighter that she was. That's what they were thinking. That's what the thinking was.
Then why are they so quiet?
Because of what I told you. Alicia was able to put on a dominant performance where she appeared both fast, strong, athletic. Everything she was before the doping case, she still is after the doping case.
So if what you were thinking was that she only got this far because she was using a banned substance or banned substances, now you have to reconcile that. Now you have to make it make sense.
The ones who can't go silent. The ones who can't are at a loss for words. They wanted to have something to criticize her over, but they don't have it. I saw a Twitter user that goes by the name 410 Smackdown say, what do y'all think? The left picture is when she got busted. The right picture is her off of the pads.
The weigh-in for the Cristina Leonardatu fight over a year ago, and the weigh-in for this past weekend's Delphine Persoon fight, in truth, I don't see a difference. The only real difference is the lighting. One weigh-in seems to have been held outdoors,
the Leonardatu weigh-in, and the other seems to have been held indoors, the Persoon weigh-in. That's the only difference I see. A slight difference in lighting, but as far as her physique, her musculature, she looks the same.
I don't see a noticeable difference in her build. She looks the same.
But alas, this is the same scrutiny that any and every fighter, male or female, will find themselves under once they test positive for a banned substance. All the fighter can do is roll with the punches and move on.
That's it.
Whether you're Ryan Garcia, Conor Benn, or Alicia Baumgardner, comments like this are going to be made. Comments like this, even more, when so many of the details in association with the case are left to the imagination. Alicia Baumgardner was never actually penalized. She was never actually suspended by the Michigan Unarmed Combat Commission for testing positive for a banned substance.
Right?
To the powers that be, she was as good as innocent. But because it took her so long to come back from this, to the spectators, she's as good as guilty. She may as well have been suspended.
People have already made up their minds how they want to feel about this.
So when they put her under a magnifying glass, it's not really about seeking the truth of it so much as looking for something they can use against her to continue to criticize her, like what you saw from Clarissa. Clarissa thinks there's a difference in her build. I don't see it.
And I don't think Clarissa does either. I think she was just looking for something negative to say.
Alicia's just got to get used to this because, like I said, a lot of people have already made up their minds about how they're going to feel about this, and whenever it's convenient, they'll pull this out of their bag to tear her down. Not dissimilar from what we see with Tyson Fury Canelo Alvarez, Conor Benn, Ryan Garcia, any fighter, every fighter that has a profile that just so happens to have tested positive for a banned substance. She's just got to roll with the punches.
There's no getting around it.
I can say like this: it been people out here that do take steroids, and you could tell that guy was off steroids.
Mhm.
And I actually know a person personally that his career changed. He was the top prospect, doing great. He fought a guy with steroids, and it changed his whole career. It changed how he talked. It changed everything. So us seeing Devin Haney doing all of this with a person that had 0.1 estrogen, and we all seen that Ryan Garcia was still in there getting tired. And it's like, bro, I'm sorry. There's no other word to put this. You're a bitch. Excuse my language. That's how I feel. You're soft. You do not take your L's. You a person that been given everything all your life, a daddy's boy, making sure you've been straight all your life, and now you took your first loss. I feel like you don't really not take it. Granted, I wasn't in there fighting Ryan Garcia, but you asked me how I feel. You done took it always to suing and all that extra shit. I feel like, bro, you soft, bro. Straight like that.
Yet another glaring example of what I'm always telling you guys about, that the boxing world doesn't know how it wants to feel about doping within the sport, because here you have a young unbeaten fighter in Keyshawn Davis, and most of the criticism that he has is for Devin, not Ryan, and yet Ryan's the one who pissed hot. Ryan's the one who tested positive, so how is Devin in the wrong?
Because of how he's handling it.
And I do happen to think Devin is handling it all poorly, but I haven't seen Keyshawn lay into Ryan the way he's laying into Devin. I even saw Keyshawn have an Instagram live, a confab with Ryan, him and Shaklur.
I haven't seen him criticize or condemn Ryan Garcia for testing positive for a banned substance.
Potentially using a banned substance for a competitive edge. How blasé he is about it when he's one of the ones that is most affected by doping in the sport. That God forbid you go in there with a guy and he's on something, the risk of serious and or permanent injury
Is greater.
and that doesn't bother you. It used to be that if you asked a fighter about this in previous instances, they'd get all up in arms about it. I remember Tony Bellew said that if he ever found out a fighter was using a banned substance in a fight, he'd take to them with a baseball bat.
He'd get violent.
Whereas now the fighters, they don't even really acknowledge it. They don't even address it, which I find curious.
This doesn't bother you.
Why? He said he actually knows someone who's on a performance-enhancing drug or knew someone that was on a banned substance. So what you're familiar with does not seem as dangerous once you're acquainted with it,
Right?
A pit bull has a certain reputation. It's a dangerous dog breed, but it's not going to seem as dangerous if you own one.
Kinda like how we're, doping in the sport of boxing may seem dangerous. Doping and being on a substance, that may seem dangerous. Unless you're on one.
Unless you are acquainted, unless you are so initiated.
And we're both initiated, aren't we, Bruce?
Guess that's the advantage of being a content creator as opposed to a traditional journalist. I am free to be a free thinker, irrespective of what the implications might be.
The implications of what I'm suggesting. Why would a professional boxer be so okay, so blasé about doping in their sport?
It affects them the most, and yet Keyshawn has more criticism, more heat for Devin than he ever had for Ryan.
Why?
Is this like an occupational hazard to you? Is there something you're not telling us? Something that you know, but we don't.
I'm just thinking aloud because thinking's allowed.
The advantage of not being an interview guy and relying on access to fighters and their teams for content. No, I'm free to be a free thinker. And what I'm thinking is, maybe the reason that Keyshawn doesn't really care about doping in the sport of boxing is because he knows more about it than he lets on. And maybe, just maybe, he might be on something himself. I don't put it past him or anyone.
Nope.
So in a situation where the fighters are fully aware of what's going on, they might be on something themselves, to them, Devin may appear weak. What are you complaining about? You know what goes on.
Even if the audience doesn't, what? You want to appear a victim to them? You don't appear a victim to us. You appear weak to us.
Softest shit I ever seen in my life. That's all I'm gonna tell y'all right now, man. Like, I ain't never seen nothing so soft, man. This is ridiculous. This is Charmin soft. You know, man, take your butt whooping like a man, dude. Look, Look, just put it this way. I don't condone steroids. You know what I mean? I can't stand it. I can't stand steroid usage at all. However, he was in the fight. He signed on the contract. He got that extra money for that extra weight. You know, he got the 0 back on his record. Like, what else do you want? Dude? Seriously. Now you're going to go suit Ryan Garcia for battery? It's a boxing match, dude, at the end of the day. You still got to keep that right hand at home, bro. You didn't do that. That's the reason why you got your behind whooped. You were in the fight. You fought the wrong game plan. That's it. You got okey-doked. Just leave it at that.
Two-division champion and Hall of Fame inductee Timothy Bradley was a lot more direct with his criticism that while he doesn't condone doping in the sport of boxing, Devin is still handling it like a bitch, acting like a bitch.
Pussy.
Jesus Christ.
So you have to wonder if whatever it is the Haneys are pursuing with this legal approach isn't coming at too high a cost, that it's too damaging to Devin's reputation, Devin's image as a fighter, to go this route.
Maybe he shouldn't.
All his efforts and the focus of them should be in getting Ryan back in the ring so that he can get his lick back, redeem himself. Is Devin doing this because he doesn't really think that he can? Underneath it all, he's afraid to fight Ryan again because he doesn't know if he can beat him.
I've wondered about this. If he were fortunate enough to get a second fight with Ryan, psychologically, can he handle it?
From a nuts and bolts perspective, Devin doesn't actually have to make that many adjustments to win that fight. Tactically and technically, you keep the right hand at home to defend against the left hook as you step into the jab, and you time the jab. You don't just wing it. You don't just throw it for the sake of throwing it. You have to pick your moments.
Theoretically, he can do that, but tack on the intangibles. I mean, what if Devin has PTSD, or as I like to call it, PRSD, post-Ryan stress disorder?
Put him in that ring with Ryan again. He's going to be shell-shocked. He's going to be right back in the first fight, not knowing what to do or how to respond, what to tighten up on, that maybe psychologically in his own mind, he's afraid he can't beat Ryan.
So he's not going after a rematch. He's going after a court case, a court settlement.
So much to think about, to unpack and mull over, that while Timothy Bradley makes a valid point, shouldn't Ryan be the subject of more criticism, not to Keyshawn Davis? I find that suspicious.
I'm not going to hide it.
So what percentage of boxers are doping? Because where Keyshawn Davis doesn't seem all that bothered by it, you have a former champion in Sonny Edwards who was very much bothered by it. He went as far as printing t-shirts. No doping, no life.
You remember that?
Percentage of boxers in a sport of boxing are doping, and what percentage aren't, because the sport seems divided on this, and it's noticeable when a fighter doesn't spend more time blasting Ryan Garcia and holding him accountable, instead holding Devin accountable.
You can think that Devin is handling this like a bitch, and at the same time think Ryan is a scumbag. I do.
But I noticed that some people within the sport don't spend the time criticizing Ryan that they spend criticizing Devin.
So maybe they're okay with what Ryan did or what he might have done because they're doing that themselves.
I'm A-class.
So you, Devin, Haney, Shakur,
Devin and Shakur shouldn't even be like mentioned, really,
why not?
because they not good. One puts you to sleep while the other one can't take a hit.
I like the way he's talking.
So Teofimo doesn't think that either Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson are A-level fighters. He thinks of himself as an A-level fighter, but not them, which is a little hard to reconcile, because if you're competing at a higher level than Devin, then why did you go life or death with George Kambosos and Devin beat him easy? Not only did he beat him easy, he did it twice.
You ain't even get your lick back yet.
How do you make that make sense? And the story was that Teofimo was sick going into the George Kambosos fight. He was sick. Well, if that's a valid reason for Teofimo's performance, how is Ryan Garcia being juiced to the gills not a valid reason for Devin's performance, his last performance?
Teo don't think these guys are A-level fighters, but he thinks of himself as one. I don't think Teofimo is an A-level fighter.
Here's the kicker.
Devin and Shakur might not be either. They might not be A-level fighters. They might not be, but they still beat you.
Stylistically, they have the right style for a Teofimo Lopez, and we've been all through that. Teofimo seems to me to be a boxer-puncher, a counter-puncher that competes in the B tier. He's B level. B level isn't bad.
It's not as bad as people make it out to be.
You can be a B level fighter and still be a world-class fighter, a world-class boxer, an accomplished one. Being a B-level fighter,
There is the fighter's base style and the level at which he competes with it. A level, B level, C level.
so Teofimo looks like a B-level boxer-puncher to me. Boxer-puncher, counter-puncher.
Compared to a Canelo Alvarez, who is also a boxer puncher, a counter puncher, but he's an A level. He's got bells and whistles that Teofimo doesn't have. That's why he's effective coming forward, where Teofimo is not.
So effective that Canelo Alvarez might almost appear a pressure fighter. He might look like a pressure fighter out there because he's comfortable coming forward. He's comfortable hanging back and setting traps, setting up counters, but he's also comfortable coming forward too, against bigger guys than he is. This is what Teofimo really can't do. He's got to rely on landing a counter first, before he can move in. But just getting at it and going after it, he's not good at that.
He's B level.
Now, are Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson B-level fighters too? They might be, because they have limitations. Limitations that are different than Teofimo's, but they do have their limits. Devin's not good on the inside.
Shakur don't like to spend a lot of time there. He'd rather box from the outside. Way on the outside, on his toes, on the move. But on the inside, he doesn't seem that comfortable.
People are starting to realize that a limited fighter is a limited fighter. Whether it's a limited pure boxer or a limited boxer puncher, fighters are limited. So Shakur and Devin might be limited. They might be B-level fighters. But even with that, the both of them still beat Teofimo.
I would still pick the both of them to beat him.
Because he ain't got the ingredients to exploit their limitations. Remember, he's no good coming forward.
And he's no good giving chase. Pinning down a moving target. He's not good at that.
It's not just with those two either. You know, I think Devin would give him a lot of problems. Shakur would give him a lot of problems. But you know who else? Richardson Hitchens. He's a pure boxer too.
Maybe he's not on the same level with that base style as Devin or Shakur. So, say Devin and Shakur are B-plus pure boxers. Maybe Richardson Hitchens is a B-minus.
Maybe, but he's still a pure boxer, and given his height, his length, the snap on his jab, and the speed.
The movement would give Teofimo problems. Not just him, not just his. Jack Catterall, too.
Maybe they're all limited in their own way, but those fighters have the right style to give Teofimo fits, and we know that because we've already seen it.
He has a rancor towards them. Perhaps feels that they are undeserving of all the praise, the plaudits, and the money they've made.
Thinks he's more deserving of those things. He being the guy that lost to George Kambosos.
He's also a bigot.
So you can imagine when you put that all in a pot and stir it, how that makes him feel. That would explain some of the things he says.
Right.
Which we'll talk about in another video. He looks at them as not being A-level fighters. Maybe they're not, but neither is he, because an A-level fighter don't get taken to school by George Cambodia.
Gennady Golovkin fought Gabe Rosado with the flu, and he still kicked his ass.
Still beat him, so you being sick going into the George Kambosos fight, it's really no excuse.
You're not an A-level fighter.